The greatest adventure is what lies ahead. Today and tomorrow are yet to be said.
Hello everyone, this is No One of Consequence back again with the 5th episode of my original AD&D Adventure Module campaign playthrough. If you haven't yet, you might want to go back and watch at least episodes 3 and 4 so that you'll have a better understanding of what's going on here. As always, I'll like to give a spoiler alert. So in this particular video, and actually for many videos to come, I will be specifically talking about this adventure module, and we'll be revealing details about it. Alright, so this is Dungeon Module T1-4, The Temple of Elemental Evil. This module was first published in 1985 as the sequel to the module T1, Village of Hamlet, which was published in 1979. Because there was such a gap in the publishing history, this module does include a slightly edited down version of the original Village of Hamlet module. But as I've said before in this video series, if you're going to run this and you have T1 through 4, it's still worth it to try to get a copy of T1 by itself, just so that you have access to those extra details about the village. The thing about this module is, and there's another reason why it took so long to get published, was Gary Gygax began writing the module, but he became busy with other projects, and so eventually the project was taken over and completed by Frank Mincer. This module is consistently regarded as one of the greatest adventure modules that TSR ever published, whether you look at magazine polls or informal polls conducted on message boards or whatever. This module always ranks very high. Now, despite that, the module does have some criticisms. The main ones are that the module is poorly edited and contains a lot of plot inconsistencies. And I think you can tie most of that back to the fact that, again, Gygax began the module and then it sat dormant and then finally was completed by Frank Mincer. And so especially Frank Mincer, he only had limited information to work with to try to finish this module out. My own personal history, I first saw this module for sale. It was actually in Germany. I was in the army stationed in Germany, and I was in the city of Wiesbaden to visit a friend, and walking through the downtown area, there was a hobby store, and this module was displayed in the window, and I saw it, and I was like, oh wow, that module finally came out, huh? And so then when I left Germany and came back to the States in 1988, very early on, one of the first things I did was go to my old game store that I used to go to, and I bought a copy of this module, and I soon thereafter ran it for the first time that summer of 1988. And then when I was back enrolled in college, I ran it again over the fall, winter of 88 and into the spring of 89. And then I ran it at least once again during the early to mid 90s, maybe a couple of times. I'm not quite sure. However, I say all that to say that I can verify the criticisms about the module, that they're legitimate and the problems are there, even though overall it's a very good module. All right, so if you really want to take a deep dive into all of these criticisms about the plot inconsistencies that are contained in it. The best place I know of that you can go to is this website here, Greyhawk Grognard. He has a whole series of articles where he picks apart all of the problems with the module, and not just T1 through 4, but also the presumed subsequent modules that you'll go through, and which I do go through in my campaign that I'll be recounting here. He gets really deep into the weeds about all the problems, but he also proposes solutions in the form of freely downloadable add-ons for different adventure modules. So again, if you're really interested in learning about the history, then I suggest that you go to his website, check out his articles, and also the free downloads that he has available. So as for myself, I wanted to keep things pretty simple. As the plot in T1 through 4 is very convoluted, complicated, and I really didn't want to get that far into it. But what I did want to do is try wherever I could to get back to Gary Gygax's original vision for the module. And of course, during the 80s into the 90s, that really wasn't possible. That just the resources were not there. But getting into the 2000s, when the internet, or the web, I should say, really took off, and then people, including Gary Gygax himself, were getting online, and for the first time, it was possible for just regular fans to ask him about these things and get a sense of what he originally intended. And so, for example, a source of information that I took advantage of, it appeared in this magazine, webzine, the Earth Journal, and there are many issues of it, and it's available from the Greyhawk Online website. And this particular issue, issue 12, has a long article of Q&A with Gary Gygax, and one particular point that I focused on before I ran the module this latest time was this question and answer that Gary Gygax provided here. So you can pause the video if you want and read that. I'm not going to read it verbatim. But the bottom line is that Gygax had always intended for this Elder Elemental God to be included in the Temple of Elemental Evil module as he originally envisioned it. And then another thing that I found on this website, InWorld, they have on their message board a whole Q&A with Gary Gygax, and there are, if I'm not mistaken, there are literally hundreds of pages on that message forum of people asking Gygax questions, him taking the time to respond. It's a wealth of information if you want to understand what he was thinking about a lot of different things. But the specific post that I'm interested in here is this one, which Gary Gygax wrote on July 6, 2003. And you can see the question up there and then his answer. And he explains how he, based on things that happened beyond his control, he had to change some things for the module. And in this particular case, the spider demon queen Loth was originally supposed to be in the Temple of Elemental Evil, along with the Elder Elemental God, but then because of some things that happened beyond his control, he had to change it all out. So my goal when I started to plan this adventure out to run it for this Roll20 group was I wanted to try to, as much as I could, get back to Guy Gax's original vision for it. I never liked the Zuckmoy, the mushroom demoness thing. It just always to me felt like it was patched in. It didn't really feel organic. And as it turns out, it wasn't. It's not what Guy Gax had originally intended for the module. So as I go through this in future episodes, you'll see changes that I made to the module as published to try to accommodate what I wanted to do here. Okay, so just to refresh your memory from last time, the characters, after they finished the moat house, they presented to the village council at Hamlet all that they had learned and were tasked by them to follow up on clues that they had received from the moat house and go on to the village of Nulb and see what they could find out there. So I have a couple of maps here. The characters travel from Hamlet to Nulb. Map on the left, it's a little more busy, but you can see Hamlet down on the lower right-hand side and the moat house nearby, and then you can see the village of Nulb to the upper right of it, and it even marks the Temple of Elemental Evil. What I actually presented to the players was this map on the left, which I made from a program called Hexographer. It's out there, you can find it. And it shows a little more clearly how to get to Nulb from Hamlet. And at this time, the characters don't know where the Temple of Elemental Evil is, so it didn't appear on this map. But you can see with the scale, 1 hex equals 2 miles. So, following the road, the village of Nulb was about 10 miles from the village of Hamlet. So the characters get to the village of Hamlet, and it's a very ramshackle, run-down waterside village. The houses and buildings are very weather-beaten and dilapidated, and it's clearly a unsavory type of clientele that hangs around here. And in fact, it's a base of sorts for river pirates and other unsavory types. The most of the buildings are not of any concern to the characters. There's only a few major places that the characters need to be involved in. One of them there on the left-hand side, the Waterside Hostel, which is, an inn. There's a rather large blacksmith and stable business, an herb shop there. You can see it on the map. And then there's on the upper right, you see a tavern and kind of an open-air market. Again, most of the other buildings are just simply private residences or other places that the characters would not really be interested in. So the characters got there, they started poking around, they found the herb shop, as you can see on this map, or the screenshot, and you can see all the heroes, most of them anyway, hanging around, interacting with the old lady who runs the place. They went on to the tavern and the market to see what was available there, and they were kind of ostracized by everyone else. This place is where the crews of these river pirate boats that come here and dock, their crews will often come to this place and hang out and drink. And so they were, of course, rather suspicious of the characters. They didn't really interfere with them, but they really didn't interact with them either. So the characters spent a little time here and then they left. And next they went to the blacksmith shop and met Otis the blacksmith. And they actually did have legitimate business with him because they had rode here on their horses. And if they were going to be here for any length of time, they were going to need someplace to put their horses, because the inn had no accommodations for that. But Otis, the blacksmith here, in addition to being a blacksmith, he also runs a stable. And so they talked to him about the possibility of leaving their horses with him while they stayed at the inn. Now, as it turns out, Otis is not quite who he seems. He actually has connections to the village of Hamlet. And if we go back to the meeting that the characters had with the village council, you'll see there on the far right-hand side, there's a captain of the militia. And then standing behind him is Elmo. And Elmo was the friendly town drunkard that the characters had some interactions with. The captain of the militia is actually Elmo's father. And although Elmo presents himself as kind of a buffoon and the town drunkard, he's actually anything but. He's a leveled ranger, and his job is to pretty much hang out at the inn and see who comes and goes and collect that information and pass it on to those who might want to know, including his brother Otis, who is the blacksmith there at the village of Nulb. And so back at Nulb, Otis said that he would meet with the characters that evening at the inn. He recommended they go there and get rooms, and he would come there at dinner time and meet with them. The public reason for the meeting was they were negotiating a long-term contract, if you will, of Otis stabling their horses while they went on to the temple. But Otis, in the privacy of the corner there, he relayed to them more information about who he really was and how he was Otis's brother. And Otis had sent word to him ahead of time about the characters arriving. And so Otis was watching for them. And he, based on Elmo's report, Otis felt he could trust them with some more information than he might otherwise reveal. So that's what you see here, is this meeting taking place in this quiet corner. But just to be sure and distract people, the halfling character Gorbadoc, his backstory is that he is originally from the hold of the Sea Princes, which is another area in the world of Greyhawk. You can look it up, but he is from a coastal city, the hold of the Sea Princes, and as such, he is familiar with things like sea shanties and dances and stuff like that. And so, just to help throw suspicion off from the party that, they might be a threat or whatever, Gorb took it upon himself to put on an impromptu show for the regulars here and, sang sea shanties and did dances and that sort of thing to ingratiate himself and, by extension, the rest of the party with all of the unsavory locals here to try to throw off any suspicions that they might have about why the characters were really here or what they might be up to. Okay, so the next day, the characters were actually setting out to explore the temple, and they stopped by Otis, the blacksmith's stable again, just to recheck on their horses, make sure they were good before heading to the temple. And Otis revealed to them that living in a nearby tree was a pair of giant owls that he is friends with, and the owls patrol around the nearby forests and in the area of the temple, and they report back to him any unusual activities that they observe, so that Otis can then send that information on back to the village of Hamlet. And so, since Thorol there had bought that owl several sessions ago and was carrying it around as a pet, Otis thought it would be a good idea for Thorol's owl and his giant owls to become acquainted with one another. The reason being so that if the party needed to, Thorol could send his owl back here to relay any information that they might want to send, and then Otis's giant owls would be able to communicate that information to him. So that's what you see going on here, is the meeting of the owls. So the characters left Nulb, and you can see on this map that the temple is actually not that far away from Nulb. Only a couple of miles. And it's difficult to see, but there's a dotted line that shows the old road versus the new road. The new road goes from Hamlet straight to Nulb and then onward, whereas the old road used to leave Hamlet, go to the moat house before it was ruined, and then passes by the moat house and then continues to the temple again before it was in ruins, and then that old road connects with the current new road. So the characters soon arrived at the Temple of Elemental Evil. This is a zoomed out overhead view of the upper structure. Don't let the size or the scale fool you. The temple is huge. This is just a very zoomed out version, with, of course, the interior blacked out because the characters would not be able to see it from the outside. But they came in from the west or the left-hand side and approached the main entrance, followed the road and approached the main entrance to the temple. So what this shows is some well-known artwork showing the main entrance to the temple. The upper left-hand screenshot is from the module cover, and you can see the door there at the center bottom. The lower left-hand screenshot is from Dungeons & Dragons Online. Again, you can see the sealed door, and then on the right-hand side is a image taken from the module itself, and it shows in detail how the doors are sealed, the chains are wrapped around the handles, there's various magic runes and glyphs engraved on it, and the bottom line is that it's almost impossible for the characters to get in through these doors or even approach it. There are very strong magics that tends to drive away anyone, not just evil creatures, but pretty much anyone. However, that main entrance is not the only way in. That main entrance that I just showed is on the bottom edge of this screenshot, but then around the corner on either side is sets of double doors, and those doors are not locked or sealed in any way. You can walk right up to them, and in fact, they're on the left hand side. The characters found one of the doors partially propped open, and so you could just walk right up and go in. And so that's what they did, and that's what you can see here in this screenshot. So the characters got inside, started poking around the upper level of the temple. There really wasn't much to find. There's a lot of burnt debris, bones. It was clear that a lot of this area had been abandoned for some time and was not currently in use. They found a altar of some sort there on the upper level, but it had been smashed and broken and was clearly no longer being used for any kind of ceremonies. However, in this screenshot, you can see that Gorbadoc has found a partially open door there to the southwest in this map. So the characters went through it and found that it led to a flight of stairs leading down and thus into the actual dungeons of the Temple of Elemental Evil. Alright, so that's all I got for right now. As always, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. And if you haven't, please consider subscribing so that you'll get notified when I upload new videos. And clicking the like button always helps as well. So, again, thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it.